All right. Hey, everybody. This is the Coach David. Feel free. You guys can just call me David. But this is the first edition of our Power Up AMA, what we're going to, for now, kind of unofficially call our Power Up podcast. We're just going to go ahead and speak that into something that we're going to, advance this into. But each week, we're going to try to, we're going to run one of these with one of our trainers. We have a handful of amazing trainers, and even, I myself have been in the industry full time for 8 years. I've managed a couple gyms for a couple companies. I manage one of the most successful grossing, big box gyms, in the industry right now. So thankfully, I've just learned from a lot of really good people and a lot of time and experience. But one of the things we want to do with these really is to bring you viewpoints and experience from all over the world, right? One of the coolest things about NFTs is we have people from everywhere. So everybody's got a little bit different take. Everybody's got a little bit different flavor. So these are just really going to end up being a lot of fun. And, the goal is that just in this, 20, 25, 30-minute segments that you're going to be able to just pull a lot of executable knowledge, right? So I'm going to go ahead and introduce ZachDPT, right? We're calling him Zach. Just, tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy, and then some of your background, how you found Power Up.
Yeah, well, first off, it's a pleasure to be on. I'm currently in the home stretch of school to become a doctor of physical therapy. I've been, kind of around the industry and in the industry for the past few years, training at local gyms, working with a few clients. Nothing crazy. Gotta keep working until I get the doctorate so I can treat patients full time. But I was actually in the Lost Boy Discord. Shout out to Lost Boy here.
Nice.
And yeah, I know. Power Up's a friend of the Lost Boy Discord, so they shouted out the Power Up Discord, and I immediately just kind of connected with the message. Building healthy, sustainable habits is something that I personally take to importance in my own life, and I really like to convey that message to the people that I work with as well. So I thought it was just a great message, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've actually kind of followed those guys on and off for a few months. So it's been cool to kind of see them pop up a lot more all over the place and really get traction. And I know they were one of the first ones I saw that kind of integrated like music and stuff into their NFTs. But yeah, man, that's great. And I honestly, I was trying to think of for myself. I don't even remember how I found Power Up, right? Or if Power Up found me, right? It was just like a magnetic draw. Like here I was in Power Up, and then they reached out asking about trainers, and so I just love talking and helping people. So it was really cool. So with Zach today, a couple of the things we're going to go over kind of go in line with our current challenge. So our current challenge is diet and nutrition based, and we're working on, it's not counting calories. It's not you have to eat, very specific items. It's more about developing a habit of like a diet awareness, right? And so Zach's going to talk a little bit more, and I believe you got kind of like a structure drawn out, and then we'll take questions and we'll kind of just see where conversation takes us. But one of the big things was, talking about diet and nutrition in general. I know you mentioned a little bit about food variety, but then also just the importance and really the like application of behavior change. Zach, the floor is yours, and let's see where we go.
Yeah, I really like the format of the challenge for this month. I think it's the Daily Dozen is a great way to introduce people to a lot of variety in what they eat, and to really bring the awareness to what we in this country. It's really important, I think, especially speaking from the U.S., that we know where our food's coming from and what we're putting into our bodies. So I really like the challenge for kind of bringing awareness to that, and helping people have a simple way to just track and make sure that they're getting different things in their bodies. And I think one of the most important things, as far as diet or anything like that, is understanding that in order to make things stick long term, right? Not only is the Power Up Gym focused on building habits and gamifying fitness to help you build healthier habits, but that's how we make changes. That's how we make changes in our life. That's how we approach life differently. Once you complete a task day after day, hour after hour, whatever the task is, that just becomes what you do. Right now, we're not having to go in and do something different every day. Now we've completed that. Every day, now you get up at 6 a.m. if that's the behavior that you chose to change. Or now every day you get the daily dozen in because you've just done it so many times that's the routine that you go through. So I think, to hammer home a little bit more on the power up point for gamifying the healthy habits, I think that the challenge that we're doing right now really goes in line with that and does it in an accessible way. So to kind of go off I see we have a chat, but to kind of go off, let's go to the question. What are some ways to make eating clean enjoyable and something to look forward to in the long run? I think that really goes back to variety, right? You got to make your food taste good. You're not going to eat things that don't taste good. So I think we have to be creative with what we're doing with our food. Not everybody is built to eat the exact same 800 calorie meals 3 times a day and be reading their calories off on a screen. A lot of times it's just about putting the food in your body that makes you feel good, and then allows you to perform whatever activities you need. To kind of shift from that question, I think creating habits is what will make it enjoyable in the long run, right? If that's what you do throughout the day, throughout the week, if that's just your way of life, then I think you can find other ways to make it enjoyable. If you really want to make a behavior change, I think one of the things you have to look at is the trans theoretical model. So I bring this up. I was a sport and exercise psychology minor, so kind of talking about the psychology of injury. We had a course on the psychology of behavior change, and this model kind of lays out the foundation for making a behavior change, and kind of the steps that you might go through toward making that change. So the 5 kind of levels, I'll say, because you're not gonna go linearly through this quote unquote model, right? You're gonna go through different phases of the model at different points in your life, different viewpoints, different experiences. But it starts with pre-contemplation. All right, so this is where you don't necessarily know that you need or want to make a change. So not even concerned about it, just going throughout your life, not even thinking about making the behavior change. Next, you'd move on to contemplation. So this would be where you're kind of acknowledging that either you could improve a behavior or something that you're doing in your life maybe isn't serving you. Then you'd move on to preparation. And this is where you're taking specific steps or making specific plans then to make the change, right? So it's become more than, I think I need to make the change. And now it's, all right, this is how I'm thinking about making the change. Then you'd move on to action. All right, this is the time where you're doing the things. You're waking up at whatever time you said you would. You're getting in this many meals of vegetables per day. You're starting to make the behavior change. And then moving on to maintenance would be the final step here in the model, where you've made the behavior change, you've changed something in your life, and you're trying to figure out strategies and ways to maintain it. Because it's not just about getting to the goal, we have to be able to stay there. If you want to live a healthy lifestyle, it can't be a weekend thing. It needs to be a Monday through Sunday thing. So I think it's really important I really like that model just kind of as a way to think about and picture kind of making a behavior change. Because I think that extra level of insight that you can get into your own thoughts by placing it somewhere on this continuum can help you make steps toward a behavior change that might be meaningful. And like I said before, you're not going to progress through it. You're going to progress, you're going to relapse, you're going to go up and down and slide into different places for different behaviors. But kind of allowing yourself to put your current status. So let's say, for example, so Zosha put in the in the comments that eating clean is enjoyable. Maybe your goal is to eat clean, whatever that means specifically to you. The behavior you'd want to change would be then your food choices, let's say. So you write down right now um, what you think. You write out the model, and then write a few things in each category explaining why you might be in that category. So then you can think through, okay, well, I've thought about it, but I really haven't taken any specific steps. So we're in contemplation. So then you can bring awareness to where you're at and where you need to go. So I think as far as tying in nutrition to behavior change, that might be a great thing that anybody could do, is find out where you're at in nutrition, maybe set a goal for your nutrition in coordinates with the challenge, maybe set a goal for strength, whatever your goals are, but then figure out where you are on that continuum, and write out some specific steps to then take you further up that continuum. I don't know if Zosha can hear, but David asked, what do you picture or think about when you say clean eating? I kind of want to ask David, I kind of want to ask you that. What do you think clean eating means to a lot of people?
Yeah, right before I answer that, let me make sure I got these right. Can you give me the titles real quick for the behavior change again?
Yeah, so pre-contemplation,
Hmm.
contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance.
Perfect. Just want to make sure I copied that in there right. Um, for me, a lot of times when I end up talking with people and they talk about eating clean, they talk about diet, they talk about food, a lot of times we make it a lot more difficult than it's supposed to be, right? So even currently, like a lot of things we see in health and fitness, whether it's in the gym or diet or anything like that, we see a lot of things left over from the high level bodybuilding era, right? So eating clean doesn't have to be, lean chicken and rice and broccoli every day, right? But that's what, at least in my experience, that's what a lot of people come into it thinking about. I have pizza every Friday. Every single Friday, I'm having pizza, and I'm going to keep having pizza every single Friday, right? That's not, technically eating clean. You can make choices. Sometimes we'll do like organic pieces. You can make things that shift that in your favor a little bit. But what you really want to be looking at is, I go through kind of two different models. One is nailing it 80% of the time. If you're nailing it 80% of the time, eating naturally occurring food, then you're going to do really well, right? Your diet doesn't have to be super in depth unless you're like trying to step on prep stage or, trying to, do like a show or something. Um, and then the other kind of like, quick, easy cheat, what I've heard it called is eat boring alone, right? So like if I'm at work, I bring my lunch every day. A lot of times it's just leftovers from dinner because we cook a lot. So if when I'm by myself, when I'm in control of my food, I'm making sure that I'm crushing that meal, right? Everything in there is good for me. It's natural, natural meats with as minimal processing as possible. It's vegetables. It's a little bit of carbs so that I have a little bit of energy to get, a little bit more energy to get through my day. And then when I'm with family or if I go out to do something over the weekend, I don't have to stress about my diet, because, I'm on point 80% of the time. And for most people, 80% is going to get you fully to your goal. Caloric goals and eating food that I know is going to make me feel good. Yeah. I'm going to keep saying Zoza, so hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. That was one of the big reasons for diving into the Daily Dozen Challenge, right? It's those natural foods, because a lot of times we take diet and we box it into calories, right? Because it's one of those big things. If we break it down to a very simple and technical aspect, is calories in, calories out, is like weight gain, weight loss, right? But it gets much deeper than that in how the results are going to be that you get, what the quality of life is going to be that you get with where those calories are coming from, right? And so, with caloric goals, you want to stay pretty close, and of course it depends on how you come up with your goal. If it's something that's been tailored to you, or if it's something you kind of just picked up and somebody told you need to eat 1,200 calories to lose weight. Um, but when you're eating those like natural healthy foods, unless you're having like half a jar of nuts, right? Because those calories add up fast, then you usually can stick to your calorie intake pretty easily. It's when we start adding in a little bit, it's when we're in a rush, or when, we don't have time to plan lunch, that we get those like prepared meals or quick grabs or things where the calories add up pretty quick. Um, so having one of those things where, um, having the fruit, having the vegetables, I see all the time people overstress like, well, there's sugar and fruit. Yeah, but you could do a lot worse, right? So, have the fruit, don't stress about that. Have the vegetables. Vegetables are always like crazy low calorie, unless it's like the heavy starches, and those are even, perfectly fine, in certain serving amounts, right? So it's the diet gets so overstressed and analyzed and detailed that it adds stress to your life instead of like helping you feel better, right? And so, one of the first things I would say, with like your caloric goals is first just making sure that your calorie goals actually make sense for what you're trying to do. I met with a guy today who wants to get big, and his, quote unquote nutritionist is prescribing him 1,500 calories, right? And no dude getting big on 1,500 calories, right? So like it didn't make sense anyway. Um, and food that's going to make you feel good, it's just real food, right? You do that 80% of the time. The other 20%, you can eat whatever makes you feel happy, right? Like we call food for the soul. Sometimes you just got to let your soul eat. Like I think I had fried chicken over the weekend. I love fried chicken. It's amazing. But during the week, you tend to stick to your plan, crush it so that you can have those things that you just enjoy. What do you think,
Yeah,
Zach?
you got to let yourself have the things that you enjoy. I think that's the biggest thing that I can kind of pair it off of, or how to make it something to look forward in the long run, is make what you eat to fuel yourself that 80%, and then eat to enjoy it as well. You have to go out and have the fried chicken. You got to go out and get the big steak from the restaurant. Whatever your indulgence is, you got to let yourself have it sometimes in moderation, of course.
Yeah, that's when you're if you're nailing it 80% of the time, like it's gonna turn out well, right? And then post up in the guys in the chat, guys, if you have specific questions on calories. Obviously, I don't know a whole lot about you, so I can't prescribe an exact calorie or an exact food or anything like that. But if you got general questions like that, we can kind of try to start steering you in the right directions, at least resources and things like that. Or if you're not getting enough fruit, or if you're not getting enough vegetables, or any, then we got different recommendations. Um,
Yeah, I think to kind of go with that, and to go with the challenge, to kind of talk about what I was taught as the grocery store rule. I don't know if you've heard of this, David, but kind of the grocery stores are specifically constructed in a way that keeps you in the middle aisles, where all the processed foods are, and kind of shies you away from the outsides of the grocery store, where the fresh fruits typically are, the fresh meat typically is, the eggs, milk, all that kind of things. So I like to think about the grocery store rule whenever I'm in a new place, to stick to the outsides and kind of stay out of that mess on the inside. It kind of is a way to self-regulate what you're putting in front of yourself. Because not every time you go to the grocery store, you're going to have perfect self-control to get exactly what you feel that you need to be healthy, quote unquote.
yeah, absolutely. And no, and I hear that all the time. And I've used it as stick to the outside, because real foods don't tend to store well, right? So they're on the edges where there's like the cool air, and they've got the coolers and the mists and all those other things. Um, Let me see if I can move this. And there we go. I can move this.
I've also heard the grandparent rule, or the great grandparent rule, where If you pick up a food and you're debating whether or not you think that this is going to be a good food decision or maybe a positive health choice, consider maybe if your great grandparents would recognize it.
That's awesome.
Maybe if they don't they won't recognize something like a bag of Doritos, but everybody knows what an apple looks like. Everybody knows what
Right.
beef looks like. Um, so it's a really rudimentary check, but it can be very helpful in the heat of the moment. Is my great grandparent gonna, recognize this prepackaged meal
Right.
of constructed in a lab food? Probably not.
Right. No, that's awesome. I have not heard that one, but that definitely makes sense. That's along those lines of, how long's the ingredient list, right? Now there was a good follow up question by Zoza was how do you feel about, the macros and micros? Honest, like I'm more behind if it expires or goes bad, it's real food. Absolutely. Like point blank, if it expires or goes bad, it's real food. Most of the shelf stuff, they say it expires in a year so that, they can't get sued. But how do you feel about macros and micros? So I'm so much bigger on macros and micros than I am on calories. If you're eating real food, it's hard to go over calorie, right? Unless you're just eating like heavy starches all the day, and then that's where macros come in. So your macros, right? So macros big, right? So that's your carbs, proteins, and fats. Now, generally, unless somebody's like, a dude's trying to put on 20, 30 pounds of pure muscle, generally people's protein percentage is going to stay around the same. Now, what we're finally starting to get a lot more appreciation for is individuals' abilities to process carbs and fats as energy, right? So we're starting to allow people, thankfully, right? Because genetics plays a part in life, right? We're all going to look different, but then we think that, genetics doesn't play a part in anything. And so, like so an example for myself, I have a family history of diabetes. I, if I wasn't active my whole life and healthy, I could very possibly be like, type 2 diabetic by now at 35. I am highly sensitive to carbohydrates, right? So so if I have like a large or a heavy carb meal, my insulin spikes, my blood sugar plummets, and I'm like down for the count the rest of the afternoon. Whereas like, my wife's got no problem with carbs. I operate much better, much cleaner on a higher protein, higher fat diet. That doesn't make carbs bad. I still eat carbs. They're the body's highest preferred source of energy, especially, in a quick turnaround. So I still have them, whereas, it's going to be a lower percentage than somebody else that might be at 50%, right? And then micros is all your vitamins and minerals, which micros don't get near enough attention because they're actually the ones responsible for all of the chemical reactions in your body, right? You can, and this isn't, I'm not saying, depression can be fixed and somebody can't have depression, but you can improve anxiety and depression by finding out that somebody's low in vitamin D, right? You can improve sleep quality by finding out somebody's low in magnesium. You can detox the body and fight cold and sickness by finding out somebody's low in zinc. Vitamin B, the energy vitamin. Like it's like the micros play such a huge part. And like what Zach talked about earlier is if you have a varied natural diet, you actually don't generally have to worry about it too much. Right? Now you can get some you can always get like a blood test and figure out if there's one or two things. You will generally have genetically one or two things that either your body doesn't produce at levels it's supposed to, or you don't absorb at levels you're supposed to. And so then you might need like a specific supplement. Women tend to need more iron, right? Due to, cycles and things like that. So there's things like that you can improve on. Whereas, we play the game of, calories. That's all that matters. And wherever they come from, you're going to lose or gain weight. It's not wrong. it's just not the best answer for living a happy and healthy life. Um, and then the next question is for Zach. So we'll let Zach take the soapbox back.
How do I even begin a plan after that contemplation stage? Um, okay, so let's say in this hypothetical that you've maybe acknowledged that you'd like to make a behavior change in some way. I think that's where being a good goal writer comes in, and actually writing down your goals somewhere on a piece of paper, in your phone, somewhere that you're going to see it. Because there's one thing to hold yourself accountable between your own ears, but then to see it through your eyes in the location that you pass throughout the day. Because you can tell yourself certain things that, oh, well, my goal was a little bit different. But if you have it on paper, you know what you wrote down. And I'm much more apt to stick to it if I write my goals down. That's one of my biggest recommendations as far as goal writing, is to write it down. And then the way they teach us to write goals, right? So every patient that I see, we have to write goals for. We have to write SMART goals. I don't know how many people are familiar with SMART goals, but specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and then time-based goals. So kind of thinking through as you write a goal, specifically what you want to achieve, trying to put a number on it. That's where the measurable comes in. So you have something specific you want to achieve. Let's say that your goal is pull-ups. This is easy. So specifically, you want to be able to complete 8 pull-ups, let's say in 3 weeks. That's where the attainable comes in, right? You have to be able to dial it up or down to wherever your skill level is, so that it's relevant to something you care for. And then the time is where the 3 weeks or whatever comes in. So if you run through that checklist as you're writing down a goal, you'll have something solid down on paper. And if you write a goal and you don't like it, you can revise it and make it kind of describe exactly what you're looking for a little bit better. But writing down a goal, and then you can move toward the behavior change to then complete the goal. Or you can select a behavior that you want to change. So let's say you want to change your morning routine. You don't like your morning routine, feel like it could be a little bit more productive and lead you into a better day. Then that behavior of your morning routine is what you want to change. And then you can write goals in accordance to that behavior change. So you can take it from both angles. You can start with a goal and then have that goal change your behavior, or you can start with the behavior that you'd like to change, and then write goals specifically to help you get there. So I think that hopefully answers your question, but just continue to think about it, continue to stew on it, and move toward the next best thing. Kind of a thing that I wanted to get to with what we were talking about before was to do the least, right? So everybody talks about like doing the most and spending the most time in the gym, but with a lot of people, it's about finding the least amount of change, least amount of activity, least amount of difference to what their daily routine is, to make and see that positive change. So it might sound funny, but it's like, do the next best thing. If you can't be perfect, do the next best thing. If you can't wake up every day at 5 a.m., well, get up a little bit earlier than you did the day before. Just push yourself, so that day after day you're building towards something you want, and not day after day devolving towards something that you're not looking for.
I like that. That was a good explanation of that. Do the least, and that is one of the things, um, Zach, we were talking about yesterday. One of those tools that we'll be releasing for the next challenge, which will help you do exactly that, right? Because like you mentioned, when you pen something, you make it real, right? Because there's so much stuff that's going, so many thoughts and so many different things going in our head all the time that we don't even control anyway. And so, what else is jumbled around there is just as real as anything else. We write it down, it becomes real, and then you start being able to put tangible thought to it and break it down. And so one of the tools we're going to be putting out for next month's challenge helps you to break down, starting all the way from what your grand goal is, whether it's a year out or 3 months out or 4 weeks out, like it doesn't matter. What your goal is, being able to break that down into the first smallest action to take. And I think that's really going to create clarity and make people's goals achievable, right? Because if I'm wanting to change every facet of my life, now I'm seeing every facet of my life that needs to be changed. When realistically, with how busy life is anyway, I can only successfully adopt one or two things at a time, right? And so we're gonna kind of help coach you guys through that. It's a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but to kind of go off that, I think that's kind of why I think it's so important to write down your goals, is to have the practice of writing down goals so you become a better goal writer.
Mm.
Right? The first goal that you ever consider to write down or think of isn't going to be the best goal that you ever write or set out to do. It might be the 1,000th, 10,000th, whatever it is. But you have to have the practice of setting out to complete a goal in order to, really complete the goal when one really matters, right? It might not be the biggest thing ever for you to have 8 glasses of water a day if that's your goal, but then when you need to complete a goal like passing a board exam to become a doctor of physical therapy, like I have to do in October, completing goals prior is experience in success, right? You write goals with the intention of completing them. You don't write goals with the intention of maybe getting them, right? There's no such thing. I'm a firm believer in this. There is no such thing as too easy of a goal. Of course, you can do easy goals that you're not going to see a lot of progress from, but there's an importance in completing something that you set out to do, even if the task or the end result isn't all the way there. Even if it's just 1% there, at least you're better than you were yesterday.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're at the 30-minute mark, and so I don't want these to go too much over 30 minutes, so that when people see them and we post them, they actually want to watch them, right? If it's an hour long, then generally people just don't watch them. So we're gonna kind of chill for the next 2 minutes. Zach, if anything came to mind that we missed along the way, go ahead and pitch that. Otherwise, I'm gonna hang out for like 2 or 3 minutes, keep this open just to see if questions come up. So this is you guys' chance to blow up the chat, and then Zach, if anything's come to mind to finish with, we'll go ahead and look to close.
Yeah, well, if as anybody types into the chat, I'll just kind of say that it was great to come on and kind of talk about the challenge that we have going on, nutrition, behavior change, talk about all that kind of stuff. I really think that this month's challenge is great, and what I've kind of heard about next month's challenge is going to be great, especially with the tool that we talked about. I think it's great that we have conversations in the Discord and have a couple people involved today. I think that's fantastic. I just really love that we're able to, talk about things that mean something to us and also mean something to the community here. We all want to be better than we were yesterday, and I think the Powerup Gym really stands for a lot of the things that will help us get there.
Absolutely. And Zach, it was awesome having you on. Super excited for you know all the ones that we're going to do together, going down the road. And guys, thanks so much for showing up, because we fully planned, we planned to run this whole thing with nobody here. So it's awesome that you guys jumped in. We're able to ask some questions and things like that. And yes, so Bodyweight Bane, I found it's easier with clients to introduce better food versus taking out bad food. I am 100% in the same direction. We create positives, right? So then it's positive conversations. And when you keep introducing good food, you run out of space for the quote unquote bad food, right? Because like generally you're only going to eat so much food in a day. Um, and when you're prioritizing like which again was like the Daily Dozen app was really cool for, is it never told me I couldn't eat something. It challenged me to get as much of the good stuff as I could, right? And so then I just go ahead and I still have a popsicle with my kids at night or something, and that's not I didn't fail because I wasn't told I couldn't do something. And then generally, as people, we kind of like going against what we're told to do or what told not to do. So then that kind of just backfires anyway. So yeah, awesome point. Fully agree. And we'll looked like there was some more typing, so we'll go about 60 seconds, and then I'm just gonna cut the recording, so then I don't have as much. Yeah, no, I appreciate you, man. And I'm just gonna like stop the recording just so then I don't have as much editing to do. And if you guys want to still hang out in the chat, like we'll still be here. Um, I'm gonna do a couple second silent pause so then I can chop this section into the ending. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming. And if you're listening to this later, please jump back into the Discord, and just ping us, man. Ask us questions. Zach's got his. I'm pretty sure I might be talking out of turn. I'm pretty sure Zach's got his own channel. Zach,
I don't have a channel
yo,
yet. We'll have to get one
I was
running.
about to say, like, I was about to say it, and then I'm looking, and I'm like, Zach, you need a channel, because like now people are gonna know you. Um, So yeah, we'll get Zach a channel. If not, just jump into general chat or even the AMA chat, and you guys will be able to see kind of the recap from some of the questions that were asked. And that way, just ping us, man. We're always, you know, we got into this to help people. Ask as many questions as you got. Um, anyway, you guys have a great night, and we'll be excited to see you next time. All right, take care.